Meanwhile, Jake and Kiravel kept moving. They traveled at night, when the cold air made it harder for thermal scanners to pick them up. During the day, they hid in caves and abandoned mining tunnels that Jake knew from his years as a ranger. They ate berries and roots that Jake identified as safe, and they drank from mountain streams that ran cold and clean. Jake's legs still hurt, but the alien medicine had done its work well. He could walk without too much difficulty, though running was still painful. Kiravel helped him when the terrain got rough, supporting his weight with her thin but surprisingly strong arms. They talked during their long hours of hiding. Kiravel told him about her home world, a place of vast oceans and floating cities. She told him about her family, her mother who had been a famous healer, her father who had died in a mining accident when she was young. She told him about her dream of becoming a doctor, of helping people instead of just watching them from orbit. Jake told her about his life in the mountains. He told her about his childhood, growing up in a small town where everyone knew everyone else. He told her about his time in the military, the things he had seen, the friends he had lost. He told her about coming home and finding peace in the wilderness, away from the noise and chaos of the modern world. "You could have been anything," Kiravel said one night as they huddled in a cave while snow fell outside. "Why did you choose to live alone in the mountains?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "Because the mountains do not lie to you. They do not pretend to be something they are not. They can kill you if you are careless, but they will never betray you. I needed that. After everything I saw in the war, I needed something honest." Kiravel nodded slowly. "I think I understand. My people have become so focused on rules and regulations that they have forgotten how to be honest. We watch other species, we study them, we classify them, but we never actually see them. We never try to understand them." "And that is why you saved me?" "Partly, but also because I was tired of being afraid. My whole life I was taught to fear humans. I was told you were monsters, savages who would destroy anyone who crossed your path. But when I found you lying broken in the rain, you did not look like a monster. You looked like someone who needed help." Jake smiled. It was the first time he had smiled since the crash. "For what it is worth," he said, "you do not look like a monster either." On the fourth day, the soldiers finally caught up with them. Jake and Kiravel were crossing a narrow ridge when the drones appeared overhead. Seconds later, energy beams began striking the rocks around them, forcing them to take cover. Jake grabbed Kiravel and pulled her behind a large boulder. He could see the soldiers moving up the slope below them, their weapons raised, their movements coordinated and precise. "There are too many," Kiravel said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could see fear in her eyes. "We cannot fight them all." Jake looked around, searching for options. The ridge was narrow, with steep drops on both sides. Behind them was a sheer cliff face. In front of them were a dozen armed soldiers and 3 drones. Then he saw it. A narrow crack in the cliff face, barely visible behind a curtain of ice. A cave entrance. "This way," he said. "Quickly!" They ran for the crack, energy beams scorching the air around them. Jake pushed Kiravel through first, then squeezed in after her. The passage was tight, barely wide enough for his shoulders, but it led somewhere. He could feel cold air flowing from deeper inside. They crawled through the darkness, leaving the sounds of pursuit behind them. After what felt like hours, the passage opened into a larger chamber. Jake pulled out his emergency flashlight and looked around. They were in an old mine. Abandoned tracks ran along the floor, and rusty equipment stood against the walls. There were multiple tunnels leading in different directions. Jake smiled grimly. "Welcome to my backyard," he said. "These mines run for miles under the mountains. They will never find us in here." Behind them, Commander Thalvor stared at the narrow crack in the cliff face and felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Doubt. 1 week had passed since the crash. 1 week of running, hiding and surviving in the cold mountains. Jake was exhausted. His body ached from sleeping on stone floors and walking for hours through dark tunnels. But he refused to stop. He refused to let them catch Kiravel. They had made their way through the abandoned mines to an old fire lookout tower on the eastern side of the mountain range. The tower had been closed for years, but Jake knew it well. He had worked there during his first summer as a ranger before the budget cuts shut it down. It had supplies, a working radio, and a clear view of the surrounding valleys. It was the perfect place to make a stand. Kiravel sat by the window watching the forest below. Her skin had grown paler over the past week, and dark circles had formed under her eyes. She was not built for this kind of survival. Her people lived in cities, surrounded by technology and comfort. The wilderness was slowly wearing her down. "You should rest," Jake said, handing her a bottle of water he had found in the supply closet. "I cannot rest," Kiravel replied. "They are close. I can feel it." Jake nodded. He had seen the drones circling earlier that morning. The soldiers were tightening their search pattern. It was only a matter of time before they found the tower. "I have been thinking," Jake said slowly, "about what happens next." Kiravel looked at him. "There is no next. They will find us. They will take me back to the ship. I will be executed for my crimes. That is how this ends." "No." Jake shook his head firmly. "That is not how this ends. I will not let it end that way. Jake, you cannot fight them. They have weapons you cannot imagine, technology you cannot understand. You are one human against an entire retrieval team. You will die." "Maybe," Jake admitted, "but I would rather die fighting than live knowing I let you down." Kiravel stared at him. Her dark eyes were wet with tears she was trying not to shed. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care so much about someone you barely know?" Jake sat down across from her. He thought about her question for a long moment before answering. "Because you showed me something I had forgotten. Back in the war, I saw terrible things. I saw people do horrible things to each other for no reason at all. After I came home, I started to believe that the universe was just cold and empty. That kindness was a lie people told themselves to feel better about their miserable lives." He paused, looking out at the mountains he loved so much. "Then you saved my life. An alien from another world. Someone who had every reason to be afraid of me, risked everything to help a stranger. You showed me that kindness is real, that compassion exists even in the darkest corners of the universe. I cannot let the people who want to destroy that win. I will not." Kiravel reached out and took his hand. Her 4 fingers wrapped around his 5, and he felt the warmth of her touch. "You are a strange creature, Jake Mercer," she said softly. "I am glad I saved you." That night, while Kiravel slept, Jake made his decision. He found the old emergency radio in the supply closet and carried it up to the observation deck. It was a simple device, designed to communicate with ranger stations and emergency services, but Jake knew that with a few adjustments, it could broadcast on much wider frequencies. He worked through the night, using skills he had learned in the military to modify the radio. By dawn, it was ready. Just as he finished, he heard the sound he had been dreading, the hum of approaching ships. He looked out the window and saw them coming over the ridge. 3 transport vessels and a dozen drones. Commander Thalvor had finally found them. A voice crackled from a loudspeaker mounted on one of the ships. "Technician Kiravel, this is Commander Thalvor of the retrieval vessel Swift Justice. You are surrounded. Surrender the human and come out peacefully. If you cooperate, I will recommend mercy, exile instead of execution. You have 1 hour to comply." Kiravel appeared at the top of the stairs, awakened by the noise. Her face was pale with fear. "It is over," she said quietly. "I should surrender. There is no point in both of us dying." "No," Jake said. He walked over to her and put his hands on her shoulders. Listen to me. I have a plan. It might not work. It might get us both killed. But if it does work, everything changes. Not just for us, but for everyone. What kind of plan? Jake pointed to the radio. Your council has been hiding for 300 years. They have been watching us, studying us, keeping us in the dark. They think they can control us because we do not know they exist. But what happens when we do know? What happens when every human on Earth finds out that aliens are real, that they have been watching us, and that one of them risked her life to save one of us? Kiravel's eyes widened as she understood. You want to tell them. You want to reveal us to your entire species. Yes, and I want to tell them about you, about what you did, about the alien who broke every rule to help a stranger. Jake smiled grimly. Let us see how your council handles a planet full of humans who know the truth. He turned on the radio and adjusted the frequency. Then he picked up the microphone and began to speak. This message is for anyone who can hear me. My name is Jake Mercer. I am a park ranger in the Rocky Mountains, and I have something important to tell you. Aliens are real. They have been watching us for centuries, and right now one of them is being hunted because she chose to save my life. He told them everything. The Galactic Council, the quarantine, the laws that forbade contact with humans. He told them about Kiravel, about her courage and her kindness. He told them about the soldiers outside, waiting to take her away and kill her for her crime. I do not know if anyone is listening, Jake said into the microphone. I do not know if this message will reach anyone who can help. But if you can hear me, I want you to know one thing. Out there in the stars, there are people who are afraid of us. They think we are monsters. But one of them looked past that fear and saw something worth saving. She gave me my life back. And now I am asking you to help me save hers. He released the microphone and looked at Kiravel. Outside, the hour was almost up. Commander Thalvor was preparing his final assault. But somewhere down the mountain, in towns and cities and military bases, people were listening. People were recording. People were sharing. The secret was out, and humanity was about to respond. Commander Thalvor watched the timer count down the final minutes of his ultimatum. Everything was in position. His soldiers surrounded the old tower. His drones covered every possible escape route. In a few moments, he would give the order to move in, and this embarrassing situation would finally be over. Then his communication officer approached with a troubled expression. Commander, we have a problem. What kind of problem? The human. He broadcast a message, a wide-frequency transmission that reached most of this region. Our signal interceptors are picking up massive activity on human communication networks. They are talking about us, Commander. They know we are here. Thalvor felt his stomach drop. That is impossible. Our ships are cloaked. They cannot see us. They cannot see us, but they can hear us. The human told them everything. The council, the quarantine, the technician. It is spreading across their information networks faster than we can track. Thalvor stood in silence for a long moment. This was bad. This was very bad. A quiet retrieval mission had just become a galactic incident. His communication panel lit up with an incoming transmission from the council. He answered it with a heavy heart. The council representative was an elder of his species. Her face lined with age and her eyes cold with authority. Commander Thalvor, we have received reports of a security breach on the quarantine world. Explain. The technician Kiravel made contact with a human. She aided him after his injury. I was attempting to retrieve her quietly, but the human broadcast a message to his species revealing our presence. You allowed a primitive creature to compromise 300 years of careful observation? The human was resourceful, more resourceful than we anticipated. The elder's expression darkened. This is unacceptable. The council has decided you will withdraw immediately. We cannot risk open conflict with the humans. Their military forces are already mobilizing. They have detected our vessels. Thalvor felt something twist in his chest. Withdraw! After everything! He was being ordered to retreat. What about the technician? He asked. She is lost to us. The moment the human broadcast that message, she became a symbol. If we kill her now, we make her a martyr. The humans will never forget. They will hunt us across the stars. The elder paused. Leave her. Let her live among the creatures she chose to save. That will be punishment enough. The transmission ended. Thalvor stood alone on his bridge, staring at the blue planet below. 3 centuries of careful planning, ruined by one act of kindness and one stubborn human. But he was not ready to give up. Not yet. He gathered his best soldiers and led them personally toward the tower. Council orders or not, he would not leave without making the human pay for what he had done. Jake saw them coming. A dozen soldiers in combat suits, moving fast through the trees. At their head was a tall figure in ornate armor. The commander himself. They are not waiting for the hour to end, Kiravel said. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see her hands trembling. No, Jake agreed. They are not. He picked up a length of metal pipe he had found in the tower's maintenance closet. It was not much of a weapon, but it was better than nothing. He walked to the door and stepped outside. The commander stopped about 50 meters away. His soldiers spread out behind him, their weapons raised. Human, Thalvor called out. You have caused me a great deal of trouble. Good, Jake replied. That was the plan. Your message has been heard. Your people know about us now, but that changes nothing for you. You will still die here, on this mountain, far from anyone who could help you. Jake smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose. You are wrong about that, he said. You have been wrong about us from the beginning. He pointed toward the valley below. Thalvor turned to look. What he saw made his blood run cold. People, dozens of them, hundreds. They were climbing up the mountain trails from every direction. Some carried flashlights, some carried tools, some carried hunting rifles. They were hikers and rangers and locals from the nearby towns. They had heard the broadcast, and they had come. They had come for the alien who had saved one of their own. Thalvor watched them approach and finally understood what the Council had always feared. It was not human weapons or human technology. It was this, their loyalty. Their stubborn refusal to abandon anyone who had shown them kindness. One human was a nuisance. 100 humans were a problem. But a species that would climb a mountain in the middle of the night to protect a stranger, that was something else entirely. Commander, one of his soldiers said nervously, our orders were to withdraw. If we attack now, the Council will— I know what the Council will do, Thalvor snapped. He stared at Jake, standing alone in front of the tower with his metal pipe. He stared at Kiravel, watching from the window above. He stared at the crowd of humans gathering on the slopes below. Then he made his decision. Fall back, he ordered. All units, return to the ships. We are leaving. His soldiers obeyed without question. Within minutes, they had vanished into the forest. Within an hour, their ships had lifted off and disappeared into the night sky. Jake watched them go. His legs felt weak, and he had to lean against the tower wall to keep from falling. Kiravel rushed outside and caught him before he collapsed. They are gone, she whispered. They actually left. Yeah, Jake said. I think we won. The first of the humans reached the tower as the sun began to rise. They surrounded Jake and Kiravel, asking questions, offering help, staring at the alien with a mixture of fear and wonder. One old man pushed through the crowd. He was a retired ranger, someone Jake had known for years. You really found an alien? He asked. She found me, Jake replied. She saved my life. The old man looked at Kiravel for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly and extended his hand. "Well then," he said, "any friend of Jake is a friend of ours. Welcome to Earth." Kiravel looked at the outstretched hand. She did not fully understand the gesture, but she understood the meaning behind it. Acceptance, friendship. She reached out and took his hand. In the months that followed, the world changed. Governments scrambled to respond to the revelation of alien life. Scientists demanded access to Kiravel. Military leaders argued about threats and defenses. But Kiravel stayed with Jake. She helped human researchers understand the galaxy they were about to enter. She answered their questions and shared her knowledge freely. She became a bridge between two worlds that had been separated by fear. One evening, they sat together on the porch of Jake's cabin, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. "The Council will send others eventually," Kiravel said. "They will not forget what happened here." "I know," Jake replied. "Let them come. You are not afraid?" Jake shook his head. "They spent 300 years thinking they understood us. They were wrong. When they come back, they will learn just how wrong they were." Kiravel leaned against his shoulder and smiled. "I am glad I saved you, Jake Mercer." "I am glad you did too." Above them, the stars glittered with the light of 1,000 distant worlds. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but humanity was no longer alone, and somewhere out there, a message was spreading from world to world. Do not threaten the humans. They remember their friends, and they never abandon their own. The storm came without warning over the mountains. Dark clouds rolled across the sky like angry waves, and thunder shook the trees until their leaves trembled. Rain fell in heavy sheets, turning dirt paths into rivers of mud. Kiravel fought to control her shuttle as the wind pushed it sideways. Warning lights flashed across her control panel. The small vessel was not built for this kind of weather. It was meant for quiet observation, for floating high above the clouds, where no one could see it. But the storm had come too fast, and now she was in trouble. She pulled hard on the controls, trying to climb above the clouds. For a moment, it seemed to work. Then lightning struck the left side of her shuttle. The entire craft shook violently. Sparks flew from the control panel, and the lights went dark. Kiravel felt her stomach rise as the shuttle began to fall. She hit the emergency systems and managed to slow the descent, but it was not enough. The shuttle crashed through the tops of pine trees and slammed into the side of a mountain. Metal screamed against rock, glass shattered. Then everything went still. For a long moment, Kiravel did not move. She hung in her seat, held in place by the safety harness. Rain poured through a crack in the hull above her head. Her left arm hurt badly and she could taste blood in her mouth. But she was alive. She released the harness and fell to the floor of the tilted shuttle. Everything was broken. The communication systems were dead. The engines were destroyed. Only the emergency beacon still worked, blinking red in the darkness. It would send a signal to her people, and they would come to rescue her. But rescue would take time. At least 48 hours, maybe more. Kiravel crawled to the emergency supply cabinet and pulled out a medical kit. She treated the cut on her head and wrapped her injured arm. The pain was bad, but she had survived worse during her training. She would manage. She looked around the ruined shuttle and felt a deep sadness. She had served on the observation vessel Quiet Shadow for 12 cycles. Her job was simple: watch the humans, record their behavior, report anything unusual, never make contact, never reveal herself, never interfere with their world. These were the laws of the Galactic Council, and Kiravel had always followed them. The Council had declared Earth a quarantined world 300 years ago. Humans were classified as a Class 9 threat species. Not because they had powerful weapons or advanced technology. The humans were actually quite primitive compared to most spacefaring races. They were dangerous for a different reason. Humans formed bonds. They remembered kindness. They never forgot those who helped them, and they never forgave those who hurt the people they loved. The Council had learned this lesson long ago during a failed first contact mission. A human ship had been damaged, and the Council had refused to help, following their policy of non-interference. The humans had survived on their own, but they never forgot. Years later, when they encountered another Council vessel, they attacked without warning. They did not care that it was a different ship with different crew. To them, the Council was one enemy, and enemies were to be destroyed. After that incident, the Council decided that humans were too dangerous to contact. They quarantined the entire planet and made it illegal to interact with the species in any way. Kiravel understood the reasons for these laws. She had studied human history. She knew about their wars, their violence, their capacity for both great kindness and terrible cruelty. But in 12 cycles of watching them, she had also seen something else. She had seen them help strangers. She had seen them risk their lives for people they did not know. She had seen them show mercy to enemies and compassion to the weak. Sometimes she wondered if the Council was wrong about them. The rain continued to fall as Kiravel stepped out of her ruined shuttle. The forest was dark and cold. She needed to find shelter, somewhere to wait for rescue. She activated her portable scanner and began to search the area. That was when she found him. He was lying at the base of a small cliff, about 200 meters from her crash site. A human male. Young, maybe 30 years old by their counting. He wore the clothing of a mountain traveler, and a small bag lay beside him. Near his hand was a leash, broken and empty. Kiravel approached slowly, her scanner reading his vital signs. The results made her heart sink. He had multiple broken bones. His leg was shattered in 3 places, several ribs were cracked, and there was internal bleeding in his abdomen. Without medical treatment, he would die within 6 hours. She stood over him, rain dripping from her face, and felt something twist inside her chest. The law was clear. She could not help him. She could not even let him see her. If she walked away now and let him die, no one would ever know. The rescue team would arrive, repair her shuttle or take her back to the quiet shadow, and everything would continue as before. But Kiravel could not move. She looked at his face. He was unconscious, his breathing shallow and weak. His skin was pale from blood loss. He looked peaceful, almost like he was sleeping. He had no idea that an alien was standing over him, deciding whether he would live or die. She thought about her mother who had taught her to become a healer. She thought about the oath she had taken when she finished her training, the promise to preserve life whenever possible. She thought about all the times she had watched humans from orbit, admiring their courage and their kindness. What was the point of being a healer if she let someone die when she could save them? Kiravel made her decision. She bent down and lifted the human carefully, supporting his broken body with her good arm. He was heavier than she expected, but she managed to carry him back to the shuttle. She laid him on the emergency medical bed and activated the diagnostic systems. The machines came to life, scanning his injuries, preparing treatment protocols. Kiravel watched the displays and felt a strange mix of fear and relief. She had just broken the most serious law in the galaxy. When the rescue team arrived, they would find her with a human. They would report her to the Council. She would be tried and executed for her crime. But as she began to treat his wounds, watching color slowly return to his face, Kiravel realized that she did not regret her choice. Some things were more important than laws. Some things were worth dying for. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside the broken shuttle, a forbidden kindness had planted a seed that would soon shake the entire galaxy. Jake Mercer opened his eyes slowly. The first thing he noticed was the light. It was soft and blue, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. It was not sunlight. It was not any kind of light he had ever seen before. The second thing he noticed was that he was not in pain. He remembered the fall. He remembered the rocks rushing up to meet him. He remembered the sound of his own bones breaking and the taste of blood in his mouth. He remembered calling out for his dog, Cooper, who had run off during the storm. He remembered thinking that he was going to die alone on that mountain, but he was not dead. He was lying on something soft, surrounded by strange machines that hummed quietly. The air smelled different, clean and slightly sweet. And there was something holding him in place, a gentle pressure that kept him from moving. Jake tried to sit up, but the invisible force pushed him back down. He turned his head and looked around the room. It was small and damaged. Wires hung from the ceiling, and rain dripped through a crack in the wall. Some kind of vehicle, he realized. Some kind of craft. Then he saw her, and his heart stopped. She was standing by a control panel, her back turned to him. She was tall and thin, with skin the color of pale lavender. Her hair, if it could be called hair, was long and silver, falling past her shoulders like strands of silk. She had 4 fingers on each hand, and her movements were graceful and precise. She was not human. Jake tried to speak, but his throat was dry. He managed to make a small sound, and the creature turned around. Her face was almost human, but not quite. Her eyes were large and dark, like pools of black water. Her nose was small, almost flat. Her mouth was thin, but it curved upward slightly, as if she was trying to smile. She walked toward him slowly, her hands raised in a gesture that seemed meant to calm him. "Do not be afraid," she said. Her voice was strange. It sounded like 2 people speaking at the same time, their words perfectly matched. It was beautiful and unsettling. "What are you?" Jake whispered. "My name is Kiravel," she said. "I am a medical technician from a world very far from here. You were badly injured. I found you in the storm and brought you here to heal you." Jake stared at her. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of what he was seeing and hearing. Aliens. Actual aliens. They were real. They were here. And one of them had saved his life. "Why?" he asked. Kiravel was quiet for a moment. Then she sat down on a small seat near his bed and began to explain. She told him about the Galactic Council, an alliance of hundreds of species that governed most of the known galaxy. She told him about Earth's classification as a quarantined world and the laws that forbade any contact with humans. She told him that her people, the Valanthi, had been watching Earth for centuries, studying humans from a distance but never interfering. She told him why. "Your species is considered dangerous," Kiravel said. "Not because of your weapons or your technology. Those are primitive by galactic standards. You are dangerous because of the way you form connections. When someone helps a human, the human remembers. They feel grateful. They feel loyal. And if someone hurts that person, the human will seek revenge. They will not stop until the wrong has been corrected." Jake listened in silence. It was a lot to take in. The existence of alien life. The idea that Earth had been quarantined like some kind of disease. The knowledge that his species was feared across the galaxy. "So you broke the law to save me," he said finally. Kiravel nodded. "Yes. What happens now?" She looked away, and Jake saw something in her eyes that looked like fear. "When my shuttle crashed, an emergency beacon activated automatically. A rescue team from my observation vessel will arrive within 48 hours, maybe less. They will find the shuttle. They will scan for my life signs." She paused. "They will find you? And then what?" "I will be arrested for violating the quarantine laws. The punishment for aiding a human is death." Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. This creature, this alien, had risked everything to save his life. She had known the consequences, and she had done it anyway. He did not understand why, but he knew that he could not let her die for her kindness. "What about me?" he asked. What will they do to me? Kiravel shook her head. I do not know. The laws do not say. No one has ever helped a human before. Perhaps they will erase your memory. Perhaps they will take you away from Earth. Perhaps they will simply kill you to remove the evidence. Jake was quiet for a long time. He thought about his life back home, his small cabin in the mountains, his job as a park ranger, his dog, Cooper, who was probably still lost somewhere in the storm. It was a simple life, but it was his. He thought about Kiravel, sitting beside him with her strange eyes and her gentle voice. She had given up everything to save a stranger. In a galaxy full of laws and fear, she had chosen compassion. He could not let that go unpunished. We need to leave, Jake said. Kiravel looked at him with surprise. Leave? You cannot even walk. Your leg was shattered. I healed the worst of the damage, but you need rest. How much time do we have? 40 hours, perhaps. Maybe less if they send a fast ship. Jake pushed against the invisible force holding him down. This time it gave way, and he managed to sit up. His body ached, and his leg throbbed with pain, but he could move. That was enough. I have lived in these mountains my whole life, he said. I know every trail, every cave, every hiding place. If your people want to find us, they will have to work for it. Kiravel stared at him. You would run with me? You would make yourself a fugitive? You saved my life when you did not have to, Jake said. Where I come from, that means something. It means I owe you, and I always pay my debts. He swung his legs off the bed and tested his weight on the injured leg. It hurt, but it held. He looked at Kiravel and saw something new in her dark eyes. It took him a moment to recognize it. Hope. We should go, he said. Show me how to turn off that beacon, and then we run. Kiravel stood up slowly. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to argue. Then she nodded. Follow me, she said. Together, the human and the alien walked out of the ruined shuttle and into the dark forest. Above them, somewhere in the stars, a rescue ship was already on its way. The hunt was about to begin. But for the first time since the crash, Kiravel did not feel afraid. She was no longer alone. Commander Thalvor stood on the bridge of the retrieval vessel Swift Justice and stared at the blue planet below. Earth, the forbidden world. Home to the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever known. He had studied humans his entire career. He knew their history, their wars, their strange customs. He knew how they could shift from peaceful to violent in the span of a heartbeat. He knew how they protected their own with a ferocity that bordered on madness. And now one of his own people had made contact with them. The report had come in 6 hours ago. A shuttle crash in a mountainous region. The pilot, a medical technician named Kiravel, had survived. But the emergency beacon had gone silent shortly after activating, which meant she had turned it off deliberately. That was against protocol. That meant she was hiding something. Thalvor had ordered a full scan of the crash site. The results had made his blood run cold. 2 life signs moving away from the shuttle. 1 Valanthi, 1 human. Kiravel had not just made contact. She had taken the human with her. Commander, said his second officer, a young male named Vexari. We are approaching the drop zone. Ground teams are ready. Thalvor nodded slowly. Deploy them. Tell them to use thermal scanners and motion trackers. I want every square meter of that forest searched. Yes, Commander. What about the human? Thalvor turned to face his officer. His eyes were hard and cold. The human is to be captured alive if possible. We need to know what Kiravel told it, what it saw, what it knows. After we extract that information, it will be dealt with. Vexari hesitated. And the technician? Kiravel broke the most sacred law of the Council. She aided an enemy species. When she is found, she will face trial. But we both know how that trial will end. The ground teams deployed within the hour. 20 soldiers in advanced combat suits, equipped with the best tracking technology the Valanthi had to offer. They spread out through the forest, moving in a careful grid pattern, scanning for any sign of their targets. They found nothing. The human was clever, more clever than Thalvor had expected. He had disabled the shuttle's beacon without triggering any alarms. He had led Kiravel through a series of caves and valleys that blocked their sensors. He had even managed to mask their heat signatures by traveling near natural hot springs that dotted the mountains. For 3 days, the hunt continued. For 3 days, the humans stayed one step ahead. Thalvor grew frustrated. He deployed aerial drones to cover more ground. He brought in additional troops. He even requested permission to use more aggressive scanning methods, though the Council denied him. They did not want to risk detection by human authorities.